Katzenellenbogen, Sanlam Private Investments, and joining us from our Cape Town studio is Kolofelo Mayele, Frost & Sullivan. Kolofelo, thank you very much for your time. Let's kick off with Sasol and your view on the stock now that we saw the Competition Commission ordering the company to divest of those 5 fertilizer operations yesterday. They've also got 25 months to stop importing ammonia, but that doesn't impact their production of ammonia locally, and I think they're the only producer of ammonia locally. Firstly, your impression of what this news flow will do for Sasol?
Well, I think this will definitely be quite a huge knock to Sasol in terms of its fertilizer business, especially the fact that it will be completely separated from now its Sasol Nitro division. But I think for the market as a whole, it will be a positive impact. It will have a positive impact on the fertilizer industry. Companies such as Omnia and many other fertilizer companies that have previously been sourcing raw materials from Sasol will obviously then need to be more increasingly reliant on imports in some ways. But as you mentioned, they are still the sole producer of ammonia, so they still hold a strong position, so to speak, upstream in the market, but their downstream activities will be greatly affected.
281 Rand, Greg, on Sasol at the moment. We're up 2% at the close after falling just 0.5% yesterday when the story broke. What is your play on Sasol at the moment?
Well, look, it's been stuck in a trading range for quite a long time, for more than 12 months, between 260 and 310, 320. And so it would need to break out of that range for, one to get really bullish on Sasol, because it's really gone nowhere. But it remains a top quality stock, should be in all investors' portfolios. It just depends what exposure you have to the company. But I think that, the news yesterday, the quantifying the fine that they're paying in that particular instance, the market likes the certainty of that. Obviously, the market seems to accepted the fact that they're going to divest from some of their businesses, and maybe it will help them to focus on their liquids and coal to gas.
Kolofelo, what opportunity does this news create for other fertilizer companies in South Africa?
I think it's definitely opened up the market quite a lot. For one, Omnia, which is the other leading fertilizer company, they obviously have been looking at expanding, even I think about a month ago, announcing that they're going to invest 1.4 billion nitric acid production capacity for both their fertilizer and mining explosives businesses. So for many other companies that are already in this market, it creates an opportunity in terms of fertilizer supply. And I think it might also open up the opportunity for new market entrants to come in, global fertilizer companies to move into the market, which was previously so tightly controlled. When many more companies are now reliant on imports completely, it levels out the playing field a little bit and can allow even international companies to move into the market, I think.
On that note, what about the case for mergers and acquisitions in the fertilizer industry? Do you think we're going to see a total reorganization of the lie of the land?
We'll definitely see a reorganization of that industry. I don't think that the, say, small to medium scale fertilizer companies are increasingly likely to either merge or acquire other companies at the moment. I don't think that likelihood has increased. And I think if you look at the large companies, say Omnia and Yara, I wouldn't necessarily, it would probably not be prudent at this stage to allow them to take over any of Sasol's assets. So you will see new competitors being brought in, and some of the small to medium scale companies probably growing as a result of the gap that will be left by the absence of Sasol's downstream activities.
And in your opinion, are fertilizer prices going to come down and ultimately benefit the poor, beleaguered South African farmer?
I think, yes, the prices will be affected by this, and they are likely to come down. But we must remember that in addition to the fact that there was collusion in the industry, there are a number of other factors that would have impacted on the high fertilizer prices. These would include global high prices for raw materials, fuel prices, etc. And the fact that South Africa is still reliant on imports for some raw materials such as urea that we don't have any local manufacturing capacity for. So we will see some decrease in fertilizer prices, but the fact that we are still reliant on global markets and global raw material supply, we will still be subject to those fluctuations.
Just going back to your earlier point, Kolofelo, that Omnia is set to benefit. Would you be buying the stock right now?
It I think it is a bit of a difficult choice because their case is currently still pending with the Competition Commission. However, the company as a whole has a number of other businesses in addition to its agricultural business, so mining and basic chemicals as well. So the company as a whole, even if, regardless of the outcome of its Competition Commission case, might still be a very strong company going forward in the chemical sector in South Africa.
Kolofale Mayele, thank you very much for joining us. Frost and Sullivan in our Cape Town studio. Omnia, is it a stock that interests you at around about the levels that we've just seen?
At these levels, they were much higher and they've come back, and I think at these levels they will offer some value, and we'll see going forward. I think it's a little bit too early to predict what will, the effect will be on the Sasol decision, but I think that's they can only benefit from it, and I think longer term it's a good quality stock.
Greg, let's talk about your broader strategy for the second half of the year. We did see in the second quarter 2010, in the final stages, that the defensive started outperforming the riskier stocks in portfolios. Your stance for the second half?
Well, look, I think, everyone is quite panicked about the fact about China and looking to slow their economy. And the market has reacted as if the Chinese economy is going to have a hard landing. I don't quite buy that story. I think the Chinese will be successful in engineering a soft landing for their economy. And I think that's very good and ultimately good for commodity prices longer term. So what you've seen, what I think has been a knee-jerk reaction, when China looking to slow down. They do today, former IMF economist Rogoff, he warned that Chinese property bubble is due to burst any minute, and that's going to have.
Hasn't that been long on the cards?
Well, that's the thing. If I had a rand each time I heard China was going to collapse, then one could retire. But I think that they know they've got a problem. They are trying to cool that market, but I think they will be successful. And I think it's China's purchases of precious metals and base metals will continue in the future. They've got huge cash reserves, and I think they're quite astute. And they've been quietly stockpiling metals.
Are you concerned about the US? With the data flow that we saw out last week, it was negative manufacturing, housing, and of course the jobs data disappointed to the downside. But now we're seeing a rally in the equity market after they took a breather for that Independence Day holiday yesterday.
Yes, I'm not too concerned about the US. It was to be expected. They had some, for the past year, the numbers have been improving slowly, and this has given the market some impetus. But of course, it was bound to, after the housing subsidy stopped, it was inevitable that housing numbers would be down. So I'm not too concerned about that. I personally don't believe that the world will go into a double-dip recession. I think there will be a slowdown, but I think that will be healthy and give the markets the opportunity to consolidate and then move further upwards.
What absolutely would you be buying on the JSE All Share at the moment?
Well, look, I think Anglo is very cheap at these levels. I think I like British American Tobacco as well, just to hedge my bets on the defensive side. That's been very good, and I do like Sasol, and I like stocks. I like Kumba as well, because I think the outlook for iron ore will continue to be very positive going forward.
Greg, appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Greg Katzenellenbogen, Sanlam Private Investments.